Have you ever been out hiking when you saw or heard something explainable? Something that made the hair on your neck stands up? So if you feel like getting creeped out by some strange and intense stories, so here are 5 scary hiking stories that will make you want to stay indoors. Number 1. Australia's worst serial killer stalked the country's backpackers. When Ivan Milat died in 2019, it wasn't his loss that was mourned, but the fact that it was now likely that he would never concretely be tied to the victims he was only suspected of murdering. According to The Guardian, in 1996 Milat was convicted of murdering 7 hikers in Australia, all aged between 19 and 22 years old, but it's suspected that his true victim count was closer to 20. The killings that he was convicted of started in 1989, with the disappearance of Deborah Everest and James Gibson. Other victims disappeared while backpacking across Australia, and the killings went on for 4 years before a connection was made. When Everest's and Gibson's bodies were finally found in the Belanglo State Forest in 1993, the handful of suspects got smaller, partially with the help of Paul Onions, a backpacker who had hitched a ride with Milat and escaped an attack. Milat's trial took 18 weeks, and he was given 7 consecutive life sentences. Up until his death, possible victims' families still continued to hold out hope that he would confess to more murders. He didn't. There's a terrifying footnote to the story, too. In 2010, his great-nephew, Matthew Milat, headed into the Belanglo State Forest with a friend, then murdered him. He is reported as saying, "You know me, you know my family. You know the last name Milat. I did what they do." Number 2. Sometimes, the ghost stories have real origins. A ton of stories have taken shape along the shores and in the depths of Washington's Lake Crescent over the centuries, and backpackers says the trails along the lake are among the most haunted in the country. There have been numerous sightings of the ghostly form of a woman drifting across the surface of the lake. She might not be just a tall tale, though. The lake was the site of a gruesome murder, and the ghostly lady is thought to be the victim's restless spirit. According to Olympic National Park trips, it started in 1936. That's when a barmaid named Hallie gave Love another go and married Monty Illingworth. The relationship was an abusive one from the start, and in less than a year Hallie disappeared amid rumors that she'd run off with a sailor. No one really believed it, but Monty moved away. And Hallie? Her body didn't surface until 1940, when her perfectly preserved remains floated to the surface of the lake. Hallie's body had undergone a process called saponification, which turned her flesh into something like soap and earned her the name the Ivory Soap Corpse. But fortunately for our understanding of what happened, the process also preserved signs that Hallie had been strangled before being dumped into the lake. It also preserved the rope that she'd been weighed down with, leading to an investigation that pointed right to Monty, who headed straight to jail. He was paroled after a few years, and some hikers who visit the lake say Hallie is still there. Number 3. California's hiker-hating serial killer. California might be a great place to enjoy some gorgeous scenery, but between 1979 and 1981, trails near San Francisco were posted with signs warning people not to hike alone. Women should be especially cautious, they read. That's because there was a serial killer preying on those he met on the trails. By the time David Carpenter was arrested, he had killed at least 10 people, according to Strange Outdoors, and it's entirely possible there were more victims. Etta Kane was the first of Carpenter's known victims. He attacked her while she was hiking on Mount Tamalpais. Just a few months after her death in August 1979, a group of golfers ignored the screams they heard coming from a trail in Golden Gate National Recreation Area. Mary Frances Bennett had been out jogging near Land's End when she was stabbed 25 times. Her body was found by hikers who followed a trail of blood to the shallow grave where she'd been dumped. The killings escalated, but it wasn't until July 3, 1981, that police arrested Carpenter, a man who SF Gates says was the exact opposite of the profile that psychologists had created. Carpenter had already been on police radar. Kane's murder happened just 3 months after Carpenter was released to a halfway house after serving just 2.5 years of a 7-year sentence for kidnapping, sexual assault, and robbery. He had previously served a 9-year sentence for attacking a woman with a hammer. Number 4. The Cherokee Tale of Spearfinger. Only in your state calls the Smoky Mountains of North Carolina one of the eeriest places to hike in the country, and while there are plenty of spooky vibes all across the area, it's Norton Creek Trail that's supposedly the home of Spearfinger. First People says that the Cherokee who originally told the tale called her Utlantah, and while she was capable of taking a wide variety of forms, her true one was an elderly ogress with skin that was so hard it was impenetrable. Also known as Nununuai, or stone dress, she had one extra long finger that she could use as a spear, and she did. Her favorite targets were children who were out on the trails, but she preyed on anyone and everyone. Legend has it that she could kill her victims quickly with one fatal stab, or slowly with a deep, penetrating wound that caused no pain, letting her victims waste away after she stole their livers. Until that is, the locals had enough. After suffering countless losses to the ogress, a group of warriors dug a pit across one of the trails she frequented. Luring her in with a campfire and the promise of victims, they were finally able to kill her. A chickadee landed on her hand and showed the warriors where to aim their arrows. They did, and the witch was no more. Number 5. Remember, life is a precious gift. Aokigahara is a forest about 100 miles from Tokyo, and while it's a beautiful place that attracts hikers from all over the country and beyond, those who venture into the woods are likely to find something that speaks to the area's dark nickname, the Suicide Forest. According to the Washington Post, the forest is filled with memorials in the form of personal effects and photographs. It's also not uncommon for hikers to stumble across a body. Hikers looking to explore Aokigahara can hire guides, a job that appears less peaceful than being a ranger or forest guide elsewhere. National Geographic reports that one guide, Toru Kurihara, found 36 bodies in a span of just 37 days. It's such a popular destination for those looking to take their own life that the trails are filled with signs reminding people that the life you were given from your parents is precious, and pleading with people to meditate on what they're planning on doing and encouraging them to talk to someone instead. The last time authorities released statistics was in 2010, when 247 people attempted to take their own lives in the forest and there were 54 confirmed deaths. According to National Geographic, the forest's connection to suicide goes back to ancient folklore. It is said that families would leave elderly relatives there to die in a practice called ubasut. Add in a few pop culture references to suicide, and the forest became infamous for it.